Welcome to Beyond Sunday, the King of Kings podcast, where we look at our sermon series that we're going through and dive a little bit deeper into figuring out what we're taking beyond Sunday. My name is Dina Newsom, and I have some wonderful guests today. It's like Northwest is represented. Our
That's
Northwest
right.
campus is represented today. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Peter Bay, Campus Director of King of Kings Northwest.
Kevin McClure, Worship and Production Director of the same campus. You said it so fast, I felt like I had to go slow in order to balance it out.
Well, just wanted to get it in there.
Was that the right way?
I think
No,
that
I
you
think
guys
that-
balance each other out in
that was the
many
right way.
ways. You're opposites like
There you
that.
What else? What do you mean by that, Dina? Tell us more.
I don't. Well,
Let's make this
you know,
podcast about us.
when Peter's here, it always is.
Oh, wow. Wow. Man, there's a place here at King of Kings called The Core. And are you making a suggestion that I stop by or what?
Well, no, I would never suggest that.
Yeah.
You make use of that
That's
as you
fair.
see fit.
And
Yeah.
I do.
Determine your own needs.
And I do.
All right, so I don't know if you guys know this, but today is National Egg Day.
I did not know
you
that.
have a big party planned later at home. It is National Egg Day. So my question for you is, what is your favorite way to eat eggs?
Ooh. My favorite way to eat an egg, this is going to be complex, obviously,
Uh-oh.
is I like to, this part's not complex, but I'll cook it over easy, but then I'll also make some toast and bacon, throw a little toast, bacon, over easy egg on top, a little bit of syrup, and cut it with fork and knife and mow it down.
And
It's
let
called an
the
eagle's
yolk,
nest.
like slide
Uh-huh.
all over. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The syrup was the surprise for me.
Yeah,
Eagle's
That's
but you can't have
nice.
too much. It's not like pancake that you can just have an unlimited amount of syrup.
Do you
It's-
call that an eagle's nest?
I don't know if that's what it's officially called, but that's what I've called it for 10 years.
Wow.
Maybe you need to trademark that.
Maybe I
don't know.
should.
I don't know.
Open my own restaurant.
Yeah, my favorite way would probably be in like cookie dough. Or just something like that. Cookies, or just baking with it. I'm not a big egg fan.
Really?
No, and it troubles my tummy. Eggs do. And cookies might as well, but they taste good enough to risk it.
I see.
So cookies would be number one. Number two would be Gaston style, where you just eat them raw.
Do you ever do that?
I haven't.
Like for real?
I have not, but I would be willing to try it.
I would try that. I don't think I've ever done it before either. But
Okay, next time you're here, I'm bringing some raw eggs.
I'm in.
on this date next
We're
year,
doing
National
it.
Egg Day.
Yes.
Are we going to film it that time
Yeah,
then?
we'll have to.
All right,
We'll
on
have to.
socials.
People will want to see that. We
Yeah.
could charge. Maybe this is a VBS challenge in the making.
Oh,
That's-
for sure.
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. My favorite way to eat eggs is deviled eggs. I'm a sucker for
Oh
some
yeah,
deviled
my
eggs.
wife loved
Yeah.
deviled
Mm.
egg. Deviled
But I
eggs.
don't like store-bought deviled eggs. The filling's just not the right consistency.
What do you put in that filling?
I'm a Miracle Whip fan.
Oh,
so
that's-
I like
wow.
some Miracle Whip mixed in. Little mustard, little Miracle Whip, and then season all on top. Maybe a little paprika, but that's my deviled eggs. Making like deviled eggs after Easter, like when you've cracked all the Easter eggs that my kids love to hide, and then they get all cracked up, and then we wash them and make them into deviled eggs where they're like gnarly colored and everything. That to me is like, I don't know. There's something about just the memories that go
You
with
hide
it that I
actual
love.
eggs in your house?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah.
Jeez,
You don't?
you're wild.
You only hide
No,
the
I
plastic
would not.
ones?
We can't find our TV remote.
Yeah, you lose one egg for long enough. That's not going to go well.
You'll find it eventually.
Not
You'll be able
worth
to
it.
sniff it out. It's okay.
I feel like Miracle Whip is deception. You think it's mayonnaise and you eat it and it's tangy and gross.
I grew up on Miracle Whip though, so that's my fave.
I don't know. Kevin, are you Miracle Whip?
I don't
or
like
mayonnaise
Miracle
family?
Whip, nor do I like deviled eggs, but my wife would have an opinion on this. So someday she can come share that opinion on deviled eggs day.
Did you know any people who used to call them like sanctified eggs or something?
No.
Can't give the devil credit for delicious food.
Resurrected eggs.
Resurrected eggs.
All right. I'm not really sure how to transition from eggs to honor, but we're going to go for it.
That's a great name. That's a great title for this podcast.
From eggs to honor.
From eggs
That's
to
nice.
honor.
Part 1.
So this week we started a new sermon series, and this is called Honor Code. And Pastor Zach Zender led us with this first week, honoring God above the crowd. So what was your initial takeaway? What are you taking beyond Sunday from this message today?
Yeah, for me to get some like measured ways to talk about honor was great. Reputation, what was it? It was reputation and Respect. Yeah. So that, I think those were great ways. This is how we're going to get after it this week. And the other thing that really stood out to me was the Micaiah Bible event that he used to tell it. One, because I knew very little about Micaiah. Like, it was like, have I even heard that name? Was my first thought. And then learning about Micaiah and how he stood up and honored God above everything, even though it risks his reputation. Those things really stood out to me for this week.
Yeah. The story of Micaiah, I love that story. Whenever I've read through it, it sticks with me for several days. And then like Zach was joking about it, I'm like, would I ever name my kid Micaiah for that moment? But then I think Micaiah McClure, and I'm like, that's either too good or not good. Like, I can't decide if it's, right. So that's like a cool name. I love what he did. And the thing that like jumped at me during this sermon was when he was reading through Micaiah's vision that he had to King Ahab, and the part that he started reading, I recognized it as very similar to Isaiah 6:8. And it says, and the Lord was sitting on his throne, the train of his robe filled the temple, and then it changes, and it's a different kind of experience than what Isaiah has in Isaiah 6:8. And so that just jumped at me of like, oh, this very unique, or this not so very unique setting with multiple prophets. And in this case, it was the moment that God was saying, who will we send not to go for us, but to go and deceive King Ahab? And I thought that was so interesting of like this moment that God is actually planning Ahab's own destruction. But it's this same setting that we see God in Isaiah want to go and rescue his people. He's also wanting to rescue his people from a wicked king in this way. So it just jumped at me this time that I'd never noticed before.
Yeah, that's cool. I really felt convicted by the questions that Zach started out with, like the $100 bill. Not so much that one. I think I'd probably chase after the guy, even if he was walking to his yacht, and give him back his $100 bill. But like the Netflix password or some of those things, like that just really got me thinking about what ways am I not honoring? I guess I think of honor as something bigger, and not in those smaller things, the daily things that we do. And how am I teaching my kids or my grandkids or those around me that I am honoring of things? And if I'm right now, Netflix got smart and we're not sharing a password, we pay for separate accounts. I don't know if you guys have this issue, but I have adult children, and you can add on to your Netflix account. That was a whole process that we went through. But never did I think of that as being honoring of the business, but it is. And so it just got me thinking, how are the little things in life? How are the little ways that we show honor, reflect who we are? Yeah, in our lives. So Zach defined honor as pursuing a good reputation and showing proper respect for others. And then he asked a question that he kind of felt is maybe something in doubt right now. Are we taught to tear each other down instead of honoring each other? What are your feelings about that? Like, do you feel in culture today we're more taught to get in that competitive nature, get above people, like where it's almost tearing each other down instead of honoring each other?
Yeah, I think it's actually what makes certain people so attractive is that they look to honor people and they look to make a name for others versus themselves. And my hope is that that's what Christians would be known for, notably making the name of Jesus known and honored. but it's so common in our culture to hear the phrase, this guy just steps all over people, or he uses people to get to the next level himself or herself. And it's really a shame to hear that. And I during Zach's message, one of the things that jumped at me is something that we talk about with my kids a lot. Something that we say a lot in our house is we want to raise you, my children, to be people of high character. And I think being an honoring person is part of that. And being a person of high character, my kids would probably be able to recite this really, really well at this point, because I say it all the time, is you choose to do the right thing no matter what. And when you do the wrong thing, you choose to make it right. And being a person who honors others is not always easy, because sometimes it feels like, but I want to get mine too, but what you're saying is, well, you want to give them what they're due first. And that's fairly countercultural. I think a lot of people would agree that that's a good thing, but I think that we see a culture right now where there's, however you feel about billionaires and all that conversation happening, like there's a lot of people that the perception is they got there by undercutting others and stepping on people. And so people are wondering, well, maybe I need to start doing that now. And the call of the Christian, I think, is to push back against that and say, no, we're going to stay steadfast in honoring the people that deserve it, most notably God himself.
Yeah, I mean, Zach mentioned that we are going to get to a future message on authority. And that should be really great, because I think culturally that is oh my goodness. The culture stomps all over honoring authority, whether it's each other or in a upwards relationship. So like, if you don't like what your political leader is doing, or you don't like what your school teachers or principals doing, like people, I see much more often they'll talk about rather than talk to. Now, it's hard to get an audience with your political leader. But we have an audience with the creator of the universe. Like, we can be praying to God first for our political leaders, praying to God first for our principals. And when we do that, it changes our heart towards those people. And I bet we'll trash them less often behind their back. If the first step is going to God to say, I want them to succeed, God be with them, bless their family, bless their position, we also see it from people in standing political leaders bashing other political leaders. I love sports. When I watch sports, I see it. Some of the flashiest players putting down other players and celebrating their victories more, than honoring the other team. So I do think that although there are honorable people for sure, that more often than not in our culture, honor is not seen as something to be doing. And I do think that it has, unfortunately, mixed its way into Christianity, and Christians slamming political leaders, Christians slamming their school, the teachers and principals, whoever those people in authority are. And the bottom line is, when we do that, we're dishonoring God.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of Joseph with Potiphar, and he says, I will not dishonor God and my master. And there's really something for me to take away from that, where it's like, me saying something or doing something poor against the people that have authority over me, first and foremost, is dishonoring God. But my reputation is first with God, and if my reputation is first there, well, then I'll probably dishonor the people around me less. So either way you cut it, I think we ought to honor more, and our culture does not.
That question really made me think of my son, who is 18 now, but when he was, I don't know, probably just becoming a teenager, My basement has been the place where he and his friends hang out. So on a routine basis, there's a group of young men in my basement, and they went through a stage when they were starting middle school where it was all fun and games to roast each other or to razz each other or to cut each other down. And they did it in the intent of like embracing each other. You know what I mean? Like, I know that's how it started, but it was very culturally acceptable. And it would irk me to no end to be upstairs and hear them, because boys are a lot louder than you think, but just cutting each other down and everybody laughing about it, because I knew there were a couple of the things that like my son would get roasted on that he was sensitive about. Now, did he take it to heart, or did he take it in jest as it was intended? I don't know. But so like this was happening on a routine basis. And one time I sat him down and engaged him in a conversation. And I was like, I don't love this. You know, we're supposed to speak positively about each other. And these are other children of God. And we want to be, you know, kind to them. And he's like, Mom, it's no big deal. You know, it's just this or that. You know, we're all just joking around. And I was like, well, when this person, you know, I heard this person say this about you, and I know you struggle with that. Is it really just joking around? And I think it really stopped him in his tracks. Like he had learned to let it roll off his back, but on certain things it did stick with him, or it was something he was insecure about. And I said, to me, this is a very fine line with bullying each other. You know what I mean? We don't know what somebody's carrying out of that room, even if you say it with the intent of, hey, you're my friend, I can tease you about this. And I just kept thinking, when Zach was talking about this on Sunday, like talking about tearing each other down, I just kept thinking back to that and thinking how here was my preteen son learning that something that was very acceptable among his group of friends maybe wasn't so acceptable if you really thought more about it. And I was like, how do we do that? You know, there's no more water coolers, like, but standing around the water cooler at work, or, you know, just that things become, oh, you tease that person, but are they really taking it to heart? And is that how we treat the other children of God? Because God loves them just as much as he loves us.
Now, some people say that teasing in general is just not a good thing. What's your take on that?
I like having a good laugh with somebody, or bringing up, you know, I will razz you, Peter, about things, you know, and if I ever offend you, I hope you'll speak up and say something, because that's not my intent. Like and I enjoy when people razz me about things or tease me about things. It's a really hard line, I think. Mm-hmm. It's a really hard line, because you just don't know what the other person is feeling for sure. I don't know. What do you think, Kevin?
As somebody who has notoriously thick skin, I don't have any trouble with getting razzed, but I think there's definitely a line and there's a familiarity, right? If someone just randomly walked in and made a joke at my expense, I'd be like, whose man's is this? Like, what are you talking about? But if it's like my brother, you know, then it also, I guess that depends on the day too, in its own way. But you know, generally speaking, if it was my brother, I would just laugh with him, because I know he's not trying to hurt me. It's just, we're just joking around and whatever. So I think it all just depends on the context of the situation with teasing. My wife doesn't love getting teased, but every once in a while she'll be in the mood that's like, yeah, like I can take things lightly and joke around, but like, you know, I'm well aware to pay attention to the signs to that, to know when that's the right time. And it's, you know, I want to be mindful of that, so I'm not just hurting her feelings unnecessarily, you know?
Right.
What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, I think it's really tricky. I do, and I am probably, depending on the time, I'm probably more sensitive than not. I'm not easily offended, but it depends where I get hit. There's some things that it can hit and I don't even expect it, and boom, it hurts. And so, and I know that I used to make an emotional living off of teasing people. And by that, I mean, like, that's how I felt like I got paid. Like my worth was in how many people I made laugh. And it wasn't until a friend, Chad Will Susan, if you're listening, Chad, you've made a difference, told me, Peter, you're a jerk. This was in college. And I was like, ouch, dude. What do you mean? And he said, you make people laugh at the expense of others, and you're a jerk. And I said, give me some examples. And he did. And they were jerky. They for sure were. But at the time I was like, well, they knew it was a joke. And he said, do you know that they know that? And I went and apologized to people. And that was the first time that I apologized to people who didn't accept my apology.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And so then, I mean, that's really changed the way I still do tease, but it is a fine line. And I mean, if whether you have a relationship or not, certainly makes an impact, but even then it can still hurt.
Well, and there's a visual that came to my mind just now when you were sharing that of within the text we read this week during the sermon, where King Ahab goes to war, and a soldier randomly, but we know not so randomly, shot an arrow, and it just happened to go between two pieces of the king's armor. It could have landed 1 inch any direction, but it landed right there between. And so that visual of like what you just described is like, sometimes the teasing hits the armor just right because it's like they're protected from that because they've got thick skin or that's not a sensitive issue. But every once in a while you send something and it just lands right between two pieces of armor and it just digs in and it hurts and it stings and then they're bleeding out. I don't know. But
Wow.
That escalated quickly.
And then they die.
But it hits the chink. It's right in the chink of the armor.
yeah.
Oh, that was good. So another question that Pastor Zach asked was, how do you have a right reputation with God? You know, part of honoring is, like he said, pursuing a good reputation and showing proper respect for others. But when we think about our reputation with God, how do you have a right, quote unquote, reputation with God? What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, for me, there's two things. One, do you know him? Do you know who he is in his word, who he says he is and who he is for you? And then two, do we talk to him? And I think at times, maybe more even importantly, do we confess to him? Because the quickest way between brokenness and unbrokenness in relationships is confession. When I hurt somebody, like I need to confess. And until I do, it just takes so long to heal. But once I do, I believe that begins the healing process. And so do I truly confess to God my sins on a regular basis, not just when I take communion, to go to God and say, like in the midst of my sin and not, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm sorry. I need your help to change my heart. And then put things in my life to help do that. So one, do I know him and who he is to me, who I am to him? And then two, do I talk to him and especially about the hard things and confess when I've messed up? And because when I do, then I receive the forgiveness and am reminded that I'm his child and that relationship doesn't change.
Yeah, I think similarly, I would just go to just the simple gospel truth that when we belong to him, he doesn't see us in our mess. He now sees the righteous robes of Christ. And so it starts there and then continues kind of into what you're saying of, like there's then like you respond to that grace and you pursue holiness, knowing it's not fully attainable, but knowing that you've been empowered to do so, to pursue it. And so just actively trying to seek God, know him better, become more like him, being sanctified into his likeness. All of that, I think, is how you have a right reputation with God. But it really ultimately starts with just accepting the free gift of grace that he offers and putting on the robes of righteousness.
Right. I love that like righteousness. We are wrong in our sin, but Christ makes us right before God. Mm-hmm. That's a great first step, Kev.
That's really good. Yeah. So one thing that was brought up during this message was talking about communication. And Zach was quoting a survey or a data results from University of Texas that said 70 to 90% of communication is nonverbal. You want to go with the stats now, Kevin? You want to?
Yeah, should I rattle off the specific ones off the top of my head?
Yep.
No, I won't do that this time.
7% is what you say, the words that you say. 38% is the tone in which you say it. And 55% is body language. What are your thoughts on that, on how our communication shows or doesn't show honor, or examples of that you can think of? What immediately pops into my head is my daughters when they were teenagers and all of the eye rolling, where they would say, "Yes, Mom," or "Okay, Mom." But the tone of voice was, and the eye rolling that would happen and the head rolling that would happen after. That's what I thought of with that. And I was like, yeah, that did not show honor for me as a parent. It did not show honor for me as their parent, and do I do that to my Heavenly Father? Okay, God, if I have to, and roll my eyes at his plans.
Yeah. And I wonder, I bet these percentages change from person to person.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think that I'm a higher, that first percentage I think would be higher for me because my mom was such a stickler. She was always like, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Don't be lukewarm like the waters of lesser don't. She was just like, my mom was like Little Miss Preacher disciplinarian. And that caused us to she expected us to not say one thing and mean another. And if we did, she was going to spank us or, she did not spoil the rod. And so I think I still am sarcastic and I still have a lot of nonverbals, but when I say one thing and mean another, and it's not in a joking way where people kind of know it, it can be pretty inauthentic and kind of rude, and certainly, depending on what I say, dishonoring. And so I believe those statistics, and I see it in my kids. My youngest, Remy, this kid, she's the youngest of the three, but she can play the social game. And I'm a little scared of her, to be honest. So we're going to have a talk about these stats. She's probably lower than
I'm
10,
a little scared of her
lower
too.
than 7.
No,
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you that I think it does depend from person to person. Some people are highly perceptive to tone, and some people are not perceptive at all to tone. And they would assume that what you say is what you mean, and they just cannot read body language or tone at all. There's no not empathy. Yeah, empathy. There's no empathy to they themselves are not empaths, that they can feel the room,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it makes a big difference. And I would just say, once again, as people who want to follow Jesus, we ought to be aware of what the needs of people around us are so that we can match up with that. Have you ever been in a situation where you're just talking with any given person and then you say something that you didn't mean to sound sarcastic, but it did because of the tone? I've been in that position so many times, and then I've had to be like you look at that person and they're so confused because they're like, are you serious or are you not serious? No, I was. I don't know why it came out that way. And so there's just this intentionality with every single word that if we're not careful, we can put off the wrong thing. And so I just think it's really critical for us to be mindful, not that we ought to be then inauthentic and never make jokes and be, these wooden stoic people that, don't know how to have a good time, but just to read the room a little bit and be aware of what other people might need, because it might be different than how we would normally present something.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and if you didn't get a chance to watch the message, seeing the face that Zach's making when he's doing the nonverbal and impersonation of Micaiah is hilarious.
Yeah.
he looks like a crazy person. So it was really good. So
I also
check that
like
out.
his, when he's talking about body language, he's doing almost like a little dance there. That's something to check out.
Good stuff.
I have always read that portion of the story when Micaiah says, yes, go to war and you'll win. Like he's being super sarcastic, like obviously sarcastic. I don't know why I read it like that every single time. And so it was funny when he didn't read it like that. I was like, what are you doing? This is the wrong character.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Just like shaking his head no while saying it. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of want him to do multiple passes, like one really sarcastic.
Yeah, give me multiple different takes because it seems like he could have gone any direction with it.
So I hope, and God, I know you're listening out there. I know it's not up, guys. Goodness gracious. So when I get to heaven, because of what Jesus has done, and I'm up there and celebrating, like part of what I'd love to see scenes, not just from the Bible, but from like all of humanity that I don't get to see on earth. Like I can go through the Rolodex, but I could scroll back to Micaiah and that scene with Ahab and like actually see what it looked like.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
I always wanted, this is totally off topic, but I've always hoped to get like, how at the end of the year, Spotify will give you your stats of like what song you listen to the most. I want one of those of like, okay, how many times did I listen to this song in my entire life? Or like, how many times did I eat pepperoni pizza for a meal? Like, I want to see the stats.
That is so random.
I don't even like stats.
But
I'm so
see.
curious.
I want to see it now too. How many ounces of cranberry sauce?
Yeah.
We talk about food so much on this.
Oh my gosh.
All right. So as we wrap up, what are some final takeaways that you have from this message series? This particular week, honoring God above the crowd.
Yeah, honor is a really cool topic that we don't get into a lot, but it matters. And I'm excited to hear how we dive further into authority and the generations and other ways to see honor in a biblical perspective.
I am very maybe aware because of this message now of how my general disposition towards other people that I'm in meetings with during the workday or at home with or playing music with or whatever of like, okay, I need to be a little bit less self directed and more aware of, okay, what are the needs of the people around me? That's been sticking with me for the last couple of days, just to make sure that I'm the best version of what they need in that moment and not just the best version of myself for me, but the best version of myself for them and honoring kind of their needs in the moment.
And that can be hard when you're not feeling it.
Yeah.
I did that last night. I saw a guy who I haven't seen for years, awesome dude, at a basketball game, and I just had zero energy. Like as soon as I got home from the game, I was like, I'm going to bed. Chris was like, did I do something wrong? I'm like, no, I'm just done. And I did not give him like the joy that I normally would in seeing this guy. And it's been years. And I regret it. So Jason, if you're listening, I love you, man. I'm sorry I wasn't energized for you. And it was good to see you.
So I really liked Pastor Zach's takeaways, the 2 takeaways that he gave, which was, I will listen to God before I listen to the crowd, and I will do what's right, even if I must stand alone. Those really spoke to me. And that was something I was like, okay, 2 things. I can try to do 2 things. I can think about doing 2 things more in my life. Yeah, that was really good. All right, guys. Well, thank you for being here. And I'm excited to hear more from this message next week, more from the Honor Code.
Yeah, me too. Kevin, if there was a send-off to the Beyond Sunday podcast, what would the slogan be?
Oh man, put me on the spot.
Yeah.
For Beyond Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And now on Monday, we hope you go beyond into the next coming Sunday. I don't know.
That got real confusing.
That did.
The last time Peter was here, he wrote us a song.
Yeah.
And I asked if you would be able to repeat it when you came back. So
Yeah.
Do you got it? You ready
Yeah.
again?
Yeah. No,
okay.
it's verse 2.
Okay, I'm ready.
Oh my God.
Is it the same tune?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's not.
Completely new.
Yeah,
You were inspired.
It starts with a little guitar riff. It's like boom, boom, doo, 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 boop, boop, beyond Sunday, boom, doo, 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 doo. We listened to Zach's message. He made funny faces. We learned about honor all over the places. Whether you were at church or on the road to school, you can honor the people around you too. Beyond Sunday.
I just don't think there's anything else we can say.
That's the jingle. That's
That's
it.
it. That's
So
it.
it has to change every week, but
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
going to work on that?
yeah,
You'll rewrite it for
I've
us?
got one for next week.
Okay, I'm good.
You're back next week now.
Until then, let's keep living our faith beyond Sunday.